Hello everyone and welcome to this webinar for Pano2VR version 7 Translations Part 1. I'm Martin from support and I'm going to be joined today by...
Hi there, I'm Karen and I'll be in the background helping out with the questions and answers sessions. If you have a question, please use the Q&A tab. I think, Martin, do you have a slide for that?
Boom, it's on the screen.
Oh yeah, so there's a Q&A tab at the bottom of the screen, and if you have a question, add it there. And you will be having a Q&A session throughout the hour today, and I'll see you then.
Thank you very much, Karen. Right, let's start off then. Today's webinar, as we said, it's part 1 of translations. So basically what we want to achieve today is just translating the text of a virtual tour and showing you how straightforward and easy that is. Now, this is the virtual tour that we'll be working on. I've got a couple of buttons here that don't do anything at the moment. We've got a little tab here that says language, and when we hover over the hotspots, you get tooltips and description and hotspot descriptions saying what everything is in English. So everything in the project is in English. There we go. So there's all the drop downs. So that's the project that we're going to be working on. Right, so this is Pano2VR 7 as we open it up. So how do we get to the translation panel? Well, it's under the properties. So if you click in the viewer, you'll see that the properties panel changes, and under the project properties, which is this first tab, you'll see that you've got translations. It could very well be that your tabs are all collapsed, and if so, you just need to expand it. There it is. Okay, so when you open up Pano2VR 7 and the translations tab, you'll see that it says project language. I'm obviously in the UK, so it's coming up for British United Kingdom, so ENGB. Now, the other thing we want to point out here is it's actually sort of nailing it down to the country. So not only is it English, but it's United Kingdom. There are many different countries that can also, that also communicate in English, and you can click them here as well. So you can be English, but in this language. You can obviously want to, so not only is it sort of country specific, but you can also go up to what we have here is called main. When we click that, it then just says EN, so any English speaking country. Now for some reason the title comes up as American English, so I can double click in here and just edit that just to say English, but that's just a little thing, doesn't really affect anything for today, it's just something to tidy up, but it will affect something that we're doing in part 2. Don't want to harp on that too much, but you can tidy it up. So under project language then, it automatically detects it. Pano2VR detects your OS language and puts it here. You can modify it. And yeah, so that's basically the project's language. Now, what we want to do is generate a translation template. And here you can see we've got this button. Now, when we do that, we will generate a translation template into a subfolder in the project file or project folder called translations, and here it is. But we also give you the opportunity to rename or change the location of that file. We've even got some right button click context menu, so you can go to the file or edit the name there. Okay, so first thing then that we'll need to do when we're translating is to create generate a translation template. So when I press that, we get this little pop-up, and here it says you've successfully created the template. Click here to view it. So this link will open up the location of where it is. But before I do that, what we're using is, for our translations, we're using a piece of software called Poedit. And clicking this link will open it up and take you to the Poedit website, where you can download it for Windows, Mac and Linux. Okay, now there are other software available, and there's even web-based translation services if you want to collaborate with other people, but we're just going to be using Poedit today, and so that's why I showed you the link. So let's click here. Let's open up the translations folder that we created, and what it's done is created what is called a pot file. Now this is just the template, this isn't the translations. But what it also has done is taken the file name of the project. Okay, so if I now double click this, we are going to open it up in Poedit. Now Poedit, by the way, I did look into this. Some people refer to it as Poedit, some people refer to it as Poedit. I'm just going to call it Poedit. So if you hear someone say I'm using Poedit, then it's the same thing. Right, okay, so we've opened it up. This is what it looks like. You can see all the text in the project file and not the skin. Aha. The reason being is because we actually translate the skin and the project files separately. And the reason for doing that is if you are building a skin for someone, you can create all the translations for them, send them the skin, and then send them the skin's translation files. And yeah, so that's the reason why we've kept it separate. But basically, you will need to do this like create two files. But it's very, very simple to do. Okay, so this is Poedit. When we open it up, as I say, you've got all of the English words here. And so what you want to do here is to create a new translation. So you'll click this, and then it will ask you what language you want. There's obviously many, many languages. I'm going to stick with German and click OK. And what it does is it highlights the first line, and this gives you a few options. Now this is the free version, and it's saying here that it will pre-translate what it can, with what it can do as the free option. If you want to spend money or upgrade to Pro, it can get a little bit more accurate, but that's entirely up to yourself. This is still the free version, but what it also does as well is translates or offers translation suggestions from words that you've already translated in the past. So this is what this TM is all about. It's translation memory, and it's got the little icon here of a hard drive. But because I've obviously practiced this a few times, and I don't speak German, so I got the team to translate all the text for me and send it back. So I'm just going to hit the pre-translate button. It says don't mark exact matches for needing work, because again, if you're not quite sure of it, you can mark it that it needs a little bit more work. It's saying here that I've got 15 entries pre-translated. Click OK. So if you've got the paid version that does a better job, then this is basically all you need to do to create a translation for your project. But if you've not got the paid version, you could actually select something here and then type in the actual translated word there, and it will appear in this column. Okay, now the other thing you would have noticed as well is that some of these are missing, which is okay, because this is the person that's like in the user data. We've got author, I've put in there support Gnome, copyright Garden Gnome GmbH. They really don't need translating, so I've left those blank, and if they're blank, it will just use the source text here. Okay, so that's now all translated, and all I have to do now is save it. Now you'll see it's going to save it as DE, for that's the language, so German, and we're going to use, and this is the PO file, probably hence the term Poedit for the piece of software. So if I close and save, it says it's going to create a file DE in PO in the folder called translations. So I click OK, there it goes. As soon as we do that, you'll see that Pano2VR in this translation table adds the German translation to the table. Again, I can double click and change the name if I wanted, but I want to leave it in German because that's how, that's German in German, so that's fine. But it also gives you a checkbox here as well. If I was working on a translation and it wasn't complete and I didn't want to use it, but my customer wanted to see a preview of how far I've got, you could deselect this, and it would actually remove that translation from the project. You'll build the project, and away it goes. With this selected, when you create an output, it adds all the translation data to the Pano XML, and if you've got the skin .js as well. But when you deselect that, all of that data is removed, and then you can use the project as is. Right, so that was a nice little quick burst. I'm going to hand it over to Karen because I need a sip of my tea.
Hi. No, we don't have any questions yet, but Edgar Garcia said hello.
Awesome. Right, okay. Right, that's my cup of tea slurped. Mouth is ready lubricated for a bit more. Okay, right, so I'll tell you I can carry on, Karen. Is that all right? Yep, okay, good. Right. Right, so we've talked about translating separately. We've got the table. One of the other things you can do with this, and is you could translate, say for argument's sake, my project is in EN-UK, yeah, or GB. What you could do is you could give one of your customers a translation. You could actually create an EN translation, give it to your customer, and just say, look, if you want to, you can add your own text to all the hotspot titles, blah, 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 blah. They send you back the file, and then you can add it to the project and use their project or their translation file. And of course, all the two of them would be in the text that they've created and generated for you. So that's is it an abuse of the system? Don't know, but I'm sure that's how people used it in the past anyway. But yeah, so that's another little thing you can do with the translation files. Okay, so we've generated the file, so that's all good. So that's basically all the translation needed for the project. What I am going to do is just go to the project folder. So in my folder, I've got my 4 panoramas, my skin, my project file, which is what we're seeing here. Ignore that, that's just a project that's already built, but I've got my output, and here is the translations folder. And if I double click on the PO file, because don't forget this was the template, so this file is actually the translations. If I double click and open it up in Poedit, you'll see that here it is. So this is what Pano2VR is going to be using, this particular file. Okay. On a quick note as well, Poedit also generates a .mo file. We don't do anything with that. It's a redundant export. You can go into Poedit, into the preferences or the settings if you're on Mac or Windows, and just deselect for it to create it, and it doesn't. So that's just a little tip there, because you may follow along with this and then see a third file in this folder. Okay, so that's the project file translated. Okay, so that's all we needed to do. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is open up the skin editor. Here it is. And we have the translation button here. So what I'm going to do is click on the skin, and it says the same thing. So I'm going to click here to open up the location of the translation. And here you can see that the directory name is slightly different. It's skin translation. So we've got translations for the project file and skin translations for the skin. Same idea, double click. And what this is going to do is find all of the text that's in the skin. Now this particular project only has 4 pieces of text. But let's click the translation. Again, I'm going to be German. Click OK. I could click this little button up here, which is pre-translate, because it didn't show it. Click pre-translate, and it says 1 entry was pre-translated. Now I'm glad it's done that, and I don't want that translated, because what I actually want in the skin is that I have a label called language. That can be translated and changed. I also have a tooltip on a button that's called description. That can be translated and changed. But the actual buttons with the word English and Deutschisch, I want to stay that way. I don't want them translated. So a German person would know that's German, an English person would know that's English. So I can right button click here and clear the let's select it first. Right button click and clear the translation. Okay, now I did say I'm going to show you how to do this manually. Now what I did do is get the guys back at the office to send me the correct German text for this. So I'm going to select language, and all I needed to do is I've just copied it, and I'm going to paste in what the German equivalent is going to be. I'm just going to do the same thing for description. I'm going to select description and paste that in. Okay, now what I'm going to do here now is save the project. All right, so that's the DEPO. This is why it sticks it into different directories, because we're using the same file name. So you've got de.po for the skin and de.po for the project, but one's in the translations folder, one's in the skin translations folder. All right, and as soon as I've saved the project, you'll see here that this translation is now being committed to my translation memory, so on my own machine. So the next time I come across and do this, it will be here as a suggestion, and that's be 100% accurate from my memory, or from my computer's memory, not mine, because mine's bad. Anyway, so there you go, that's the skin translated. So I'm just going to close that and close that down as well, and there we go. That's basically actually I closed the skin too quickly, but that's the skin file translated. And what I just want to do now is just open up the directory just to show you. So now we've got the translations folder with the DEPO file for the project, and the skin translations is the DEPO file for the skin. And again, when I double click that, you'll see that this is the folder, or the file that we'll be reading in Pano2VR. Okay, right. That was this is going pretty quick, and I'm surprised no one's asking questions, but it's good. But yeah, if I'm not careful, I'm going to end up finishing this very, very quickly. But anyway, that's the skin translated. But of course, what we've got to do is be able to select the language from the skin. So right now, I've added two text boxes, and I've said language select EN and DE. You know, that's not a hard thing, but what we need to do now is obviously give it the action. So I'm going to double click. So here we've got source. My source is going to be mouse click. The action is going to be player settings, and then the type is going to be set language. Now this is where it gets really clever, because what the drop down lists will do will show you what languages you've got translated. So I'm going to click here, and you can see we've got German and English. This is for the English button, so it's just EN, and I'm going to click OK. All right, as I do, I'm going to just keyboard copy, select the language for the German, and just keyboard paste. By the way, when you see command up here, because I'm on the Mac, if you're on the PC, that will be Control. So I'm obviously just using Command C for copy, Command V for paste. So it'd be Control C and V if you're on the PC. Okay, so that's my languages set up. So let's click Save, and let's. Well, I didn't need to export because I've already got it out, and here it is. So this is the project. When we hover over, you'll see that we've got the English text. I am going to refresh this because I've added new actions. Now, the other good thing about this as well is when we right button click, we've got the English context, the context language or menu here. When I click the Deutsches button, when I right button click, it's still in English. Okay, right. What am I missing? So here we go. We've got that. We've got that. Let's produce the output. Maybe. Let's clear the cache and refresh the page. Okay, so let's click Deutsch. No, okay, this is interesting. Right, okay, skin action then. So, language, set language is EN. That's EN.
Martin, select German on the other one.
Yeah. No, I've just spotted the.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, because I just copied and pasted, and I didn't.
Yep.
Didn't change it. Yeah.
Common mistake. No worries.
Yeah, no. I've got a cold. Give me a break. Anyway. Anyway, so that's that. Right. So panic over. Let's go back and open that up. So as I was saying, if you click this button, you'll see that the title language changes into German. When I right button click, we got the context menu changes, and all the tooltips and anything that was written in English is now translated into German, and it is as quick as that. All right. Okay, and we've got a we had text in the project description as well, so that's all changed. Right, so that does bring me back to what does get translated. Well, all text, basically. If we have a look at Pano2VR, we have a look at the project user data. So all the text I put in here, all of this, all of the text, when we opened up the PO file, you actually saw. So let me just do that again. So translations, the PO file, you'll see that this text here is all translated. So basically everything here. So you've got your enter and exit full screen. That's something we wasn't being able to do in version 6. We could create translations with logic blocks, but we couldn't do like the right button click context menu and all of that. Now we can. We can translate everything in the project file and skin. Okay, so with that said, is there any questions at all, Karen?
Yeah. There's a few questions. Well, not, there's actually just one question, but a few people have actually asked if there's a way you can add more than just 2 languages. Is it easy to add a third and a fourth one?
Absolutely.
And if so,
absolutely.
Can you walk through that?
This is more of a part 2er, because part 1 is just to get to know Poedit and how to translate and everything else. But yes, it's very, very easy, and I will do that. But whilst I've got Poedit open, you'll see that when something is highlighted, you can add notes. So here it's telling me that the project user data title, this is what this is. If I click here, support Gnome, it's telling me the project user data author. So it's got, you can see what you're actually translating and where this text can see. So you can see that there. So if I click seating area, you'll say that the seating area is node 3 user data title. Yeah, so it's telling you where it's coming from. Okay, so and you can add a comment there. So I don't know, Pano2VR 7 project add. So I can add my own comments to this as well. So if you are sharing PO files with somebody else that's helping you translate, they can stick in comments and notes for you. So you can send the PO file backwards and forwards. Okay, so that's to do with the PO file. Right, okay, so that's really the translation files. I'm just going to save that. All right. Okay, so the question was, can I add another language? Well, the answer is yes, because if you click the generate template button again and just click, I'm only doing this just to open the folder up. I'm going to just open the folder as well. But basically, what we've done is created a German PO file. But what I can do is go back to the template, double click, and add a new translation, and add another one. Any translation I wanted to. So let's just do, I don't know, French, perhaps. Click OK. And I could get it to pre-translate. I have no idea about this. I don't know how correct it is, or even if it's going to do it. It doesn't look like it is. Because obviously with the free one, you're allowed so many translations per day for free, and I've hit that. But anyway, this would have been the French one. Let's just save this as an FRTN. Okay, we'll save that, and as soon as I save that and create that new PO file, you'll see that that's added to the list as well. Now what I'm going to do is show you something. Whilst I've got that there, if I go back to the skin, I'm just going to add a text box just for speed, and let's do FR. This is probably going to be not going to work that well, to be honest, but let's try it. So mouse click, player settings, I'm going to change language, and now we have the French translation there as well. And we've got Tunisia, or I could actually do FR, right? Okay, so now let's put it in what we've translated to. Okay, so that's that. What I will do as well, he says, I'll put something in there that would prove that we're actually doing some translating. So if I go to the French Tunisia and then what should we do? So it's Gutenberg Abbey. Let's just put some text in here. So I'm going to select enter full screen. So I'm just going to put something in just to say that, you know, so I don't know. Right, I'm just going to do that. Just bear with me, just so there's something in there to recognize that the translation file is working. Okay, I'm going to save that. Unfortunately, it's added that as 100%. That's going to be definitely right, which is not. So I can right button click and delete that from memory, which is great. And we're going to save this file. So I've now got this second file in there. That's going to select the language. Let's create the output. And what should happen now, if I right button click, this is English. If I click the FR button, right button click, it's now saying my full screen. So it's showing that that translation is working. But this translation is not complete. It's work in progress. So I can deselect that and then create the output. And then next time I click FR, it's not there. It's not actually working. So it's not only does it disable the translation, but it takes it out of the XML file, and it also removes it from the skin file as well. So again, as we were saying, if you've got work in progress, you can do that. If you want to get rid of a translation, this is very, very simple. All you do is you just go to the translation folder. So let's go back to my project, go back to there. And as soon as you delete it, right button click, move to bin, gone, you'll see it just disappears out of here. So that's really, really simple to adding and removing. Okay, right. What do I want to do next? Right. Before I go, I know I've just asked, but really, any questions? None? Everyone really following this? Is it this simple? I'm hoping the answer is yes.
Yeah, no, I think it is really simple, and I actually think Michael's question was asking about how do you create the right click, the context menu, which I think you have already shown.
Yeah.
Where you just translate it in the project file there, in the project template.
That's it. So if I go back to the PO file, which is the translation, you'll see on the right click, we've got the enter full screen, exit full screen, and they're translated there. Okay.
Yeah. And then, so Spencer is wondering, for part one, are we only talking about translating the project, just a project file, and then part two is the skin? What's the second part?
We've talked about translating the project. We've talked about translating the skin because we did that before. We used this button to create a translation file. So we've done the skin. What part two is going to be about is how do we handle media? So things like, I don't know, videos, you know, how do you handle PDFs? How do you handle images? And then in the skin editor, we're going to be looking at, you know, a little bit more technicalities on how to make a language list and doing things like that. So this is why I want to get this one nailed down, because part two is going to assume that you know how to do all of what we're doing, to how to create a simple, I say simple, but it is simple, a simple translation with all the text translated, and how to open a PO file and where to get Poedit and all of that sort of stuff. Once you've got that mastered, then part two, we're introducing more, you know, like PDFs and pop-up videos, and how do you deal with that? You know, if I change, you know, from English to German, I want to see a German YouTube video, and if I go to English, I want to see an English video. That will all be covered in part two.
Okay, so I think that answers, I think, 3 of people's questions. Yeah.
Right.
Let me just check. I think that's that's it for questions.
Right, okay. I'm actually going to delete that button because I don't think that's required. Right, okay. So I'm going to close and save the skin. Okay, so let's have a look back at the output. Now, as we said, the output, when I right button click, we've got the context menu, we've got it in English, and when I click German, we've got it in German. Same with all of this, as said, like all the tooltips, and this is also using the hotspot descriptions as well. Everything is just translated nice and easily. But what if I then decide I want to add projections? Okay, so what you would normally do is click on the output, you'd go under control and you'd select add projection items. Click, create the output, boom, here's the output here. So we've got our rectilinear and stereoscopic and fisheye. If I click on German now, oh, they're still in English. Why are they still in English and how can we update that? Well, the reason why they're still in English, and probably the main reason why you wouldn't actually think about doing translations until you're near the end of building your project. Because obviously if you start changing text, you've not translated it. Okay, so now is the time for me to pop back and show you how we can update. So let's do that. So I've added the projection items to the project file. So I'm going to go to the properties, project properties, and I'm going to click generate translation template again. And this is going to generate a new one. So it's going to overwrite the old one. So if I double click it, you'll now that it's got rectilinear, stereographic and fisheye and all of those. Okay, but I've already generated a PO file. So I don't necessarily need to generate a whole new translation. What I can do is double click the PO file. All right, so this is a Poedit thing, and we can go to translation and update from pot file. Okay, so this the pot file is the template, the PO is the translation file. So I'm going to select that particular pot file, click open, and you'll see that those things are added. Okay, right now it just so happens I can copy and paste these in. I will try. Let me. I think these will translate because I've done this before. These are already in my translate memory, so I can just select these, and they should be correct. He says. So let's just do that, and the final one, fisheye. Select here, and it's correct. Right. Okay. Now I'm not seeing any messages coming from the team, and as I'm the only one that doesn't speak German, that's a good thing. So yeah,
looks good. Looks good.
So that's them all updated, right? So all I've got to do now is I'm just going to just use a keyboard shortcut to save the file and close it, and that's all I need to do. Because if I now go into, let's just close all that, just create another output, and again if I right button click, there it is all in English. If I click German, right button click, there it is now all in German. So all you needed to do was just open up the PO or export a new POT file or pot file, right? So generate a new one of those, but then you can open up the PO file, go to the menu, update from pot, select your pot file, and then you can translate all the additional text. Okay, that is probably the heart of translating a Pano2VR file with just text. So it's all the text translated. Now there was a bit of a there was a couple of gotchas in this. I say a couple, one that got me, and I had to think about this. And what this was in English, we have separate words, lots of separate words. Ooh, we have lots of separate words. But when I translated something into German, the German language strings words together, so you end up with a really, really, really long one word. And what actually happened is it was actually longer than my text box. And because it was one word, it couldn't word wrap, so the text box clipped. So you got to be mindful of this. Your text boxes will have to adapt or have to be as large as the longest word that you're going to use. So if I click on German, you can see that some of these words are really quite long. So yeah, that one at the bottom there, if I hold my mouse still enough, the green ring will disappear, and you can see that sits. I'm not even going to try and pronounce that. Karen, can you help me out on the pronunciation of that?
Sitzplatzbereich.
Yeah, okay, if you say so. But yeah, but that was clipping because that word was far too long for my text box. So that's another thing that you've got to be really mindful of is, you know, different languages, the words that they use, will they fit in the text boxes, etc., etc. Okay, right, now the other thing that you may or may not have noticed is that when I select something, I don't know which language I'm in other than the tooltip. So here it just says it's languages. If I click Deutsch, it says this word here. Okay, so how can I give a visual representation of what language we're in? Okay, so let's head back to the skin. Okay, and let's have a look at the language for EN. So this is my English button. Now I've got the backgrounds grayed out. But when I click on this, you'll see that I can then use a logic block trigger, which is going to be player language. Now we could say equals and then an EN, right? So that's equals this language, so equals, you know, English, EN. Now, as we have already seen, you can have EN-US, EN-GB, EN- several different languages or different other countries, and the same with German and the same with most other languages. So the better comparison here is to start with. There you go. So if you then use start with EN, this then takes care of any EN-UKs, any EN-USs, or any EN- any other country. So that's the best way to deal with that. Okay, so we're going to copy that, click, and we're going to go to the German language, and we're going to paste that, but this time remembering to change the language. And there you go. But what I need to do, obviously, is set the color. So let's go back and set the color to white. So the logic block now states that if the language starts with EN, change the background color to white. So let's just save, let's just export out, and you can see now we've got English, and when we click it's going to German. We're not actually telling to change the color with a button click. What this is doing is it's detecting the language that we've selected. So we're saying select English, and it's changing it to English, and that's what it does. So here it's in German, and here its language is English. Now another thing as well, okay, so the other thing that I want to show you is that I've set up my Firefox to change, or in German. All right, so my Firefox's default language is in German. And why did I do that? Because not only did Pano2VR detect the OS for the language it's going to use here, yeah, for its project language, but the player can detect the browser language and then open the project in that language. Pretty cool, huh? So here I'm going to just copy the URL. This is in Safari, so that's my English browser. If I open up Firefox, I'm going to right button click, and I hope that's paste, I don't know, and there you go, it opens up in German. So it's detecting, so the player's detecting the language of the browser and then serving the correct language for that particular viewer. Okay, I think, I mean, I'm sort of coming to the end of this all now. I know it was fairly quick, but, you know, having said that, Karen, do we have any questions?
We do. We have one question. Can we have the project started with a certain language already activated?
Yeah, you can. Basically, what you would do is have something like an action like config loaded, select language, and yeah, I mean, so here for argument's sake, I'm in Safari that's will use the English language. I could then choose my button and just go config loaded, player settings, language, and I'm going to change that to German. Okay, so that's that. So even in Safari, which it should detect, it says it's gone to German. So that's how you can do it. You'll just use a config loaded. All right, so that's basically how I'm doing that. I will change that back, because what we'll do is we'll have these files for download after the webinar. So I'll just remove that action. Here we go. But that's all you would do. Config loaded, bump, done. This takes us back to if you get a customer that, for argument's sake, you're building your project in, I don't know, ENUS. You actually create a PO file for just EN for English, give it to your customer. They type in all of their text and then send it back to you. Then you could just add this to make sure that that particular translation, so the English translation, the EN one, is selected on startup regardless of what's going on. Okay, I think that's that. I'm just going to, a little nod to the team. Have I missed anything out? I think I've just about covered everything I want to do in part one. As I say, what's important with part one was, you know, where to go to find the languages, find the list, deselect if you wish, if it's a translation in progress, how to open the PO file, and how to translate. And I think that's the important thing for part one. And as you see, it's really straightforward, it's not difficult, and yeah, I think we're good. Right, I'm just going to throw it open one more time and just say, is there anything else that we have? Right, we still have questions. Right, cool.
Yeah, we still have a few, quite a few questions.
All right, well, okay.
Yeah. So let's see. Danielle is asking if is selecting the language using the URL parameter possible? And I'm not quite sure what that means. Does that mean anything to you?
Would you? I'm sort of thinking using direct node access, right? So you would, so for argument's sake, you wanted to send an English person a German version, you would send them direct node access with a
that's it, and that's the same question. Okay, as ink. Okay, yeah, that's it.
So yes, it can be done. It can be done. Basically, in the forum, there's already text. In fact, somebody actually came up with a really smart idea, actually, and that was to add to your project, I don't know, a 5x10 pixel dummy panorama, and give it a tag, and basically use direct node access. And if they open up on that dummy panorama with the tag, that then can do a config loaded and change the language to what you want. But either or either, yes, it's possible. You can either use direct node access with changing a variable. Those particular projects are in the forum. You just search for them and you'll find them. Or you can do, you know, things like adding dummy nodes and then using direct node access to open a dummy node, and then that dummy node could then set the language for the rest of the tour. So yeah, there's many possibilities to do that. Right, any more?
Great. No, that's all. We're just getting thank yous, and right. Yeah, but I think that's it.
Okie dokie. I'm going to be brave and put out the 13th of July for the next one. Is that was right, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so that's going to be part two. That's going to be a real doozy, as in, yeah, as I say, changing out media and things like that. So that's really going to get your teeth into it. This is why we split it into two parts. Get this bit out the way, nice and simple, nice and easy, and we can roll up our sleeves and dive into media and other things in the next part. Okay, well, I'm done, and from me, I will say farewell and see you next time. Bye.
Bye.